Treaty 11 lands within the Gwich'in settlement area and the lands of the Inuvik final agreement. Before we do the adoption of the agenda, I'd just like to acknowledge that we lost a prominent community leader on the weekend. The chair of the Inuvik Community Corp and manager of the Inuvik Housing Authority, Rory Bluejack, passed away. We'll miss Rory. Item number 2, adoption of the agenda. Any comments? Item 3, declaration of conflict of interest or pecuniary interest. Anyone? Item 4, RCMP report 4.1. We don't have a member here, but are there any comments on the report? None. Item 5, public question period. We have no public. Item 6.1, the minutes of the December 11th and 13th, 2023 council meetings. Any questions, corrections? 7.1, action items list. You have an updated action items list in front of you. Are there any comments, questions? Evening. Councilor Merrill,
Do you want to go back to the RCMP?
when we get done with this
Okay,
one.
So thank you for the updated action item list. This helps greatly. So my question, and I'm not sure if this is going to be a presentation later, is around buildings. Are we looking at that separately in this meeting?
I'm sorry, what was that?
The condemned buildings, are we looking at that as an item in this meeting?
We are, yes.
Okay, then that takes care of my question. Thank you.
Michael, did you want to give your update or should we let the RCMP go first?
Let's let our wonderful members from the RCMP go first.
Okay, very briefly, we're going to go back to item 4.1, the RCMP report. We have Jesse Alvin here. Go ahead.
Apologies, everyone, I'm a few minutes late, so sorry about that. Again, this time I brought some backup. I'm gonna try to bring, not a new member, but a member each time if it's feasible, to introduce them to the mayor and council. Throwing a little breath right upstairs. It's Constable Kayla DeMont. Kayla has been here for, how long now, Kayla?
Year and a bit.
Year and a little over a year.
Yeah.
She often acts sort of as a supervisor. She was instrumental in developing and implementing our new schedule, which I talked about over the summertime, which has so far, I think, paid off in dividends with longer hours for service. We have more members working on the weekends when we generally get more calls for service. Kayla was a big kind of part of that. She's really good at managing schedules and stuff like that, takes a lot off my plate. So I thank her for that and I wanted to introduce her to you folks. I believe I've missed 2 mayor's reports here. I'm sure everyone's had a chance to read them both. I think a couple of things I'd like to highlight. Obviously the drug and money seizures in the last couple of months. Some really good proactive work, some great assistance from community members as well. You know, that's well over $40,000 in cash we seized recently, about 100 grams of crack cocaine. The other thing you'll see on the December report, and this is something that a community member actually approached me about and asked, was to see if we could share with the community the results of the drugs that we seize. So every time we seize drugs, we send them to Health Canada and they analyze them to see what's in them, basically to see if it's an actual controlled drug or not. And one thing that I'd like to let everybody know is if Health Canada finds something that's very dangerous, they share it with the chief public health officer who issues those alerts. You've probably seen those from Hay River. So we haven't had anything like that here yet. So you'll see in December's report, I actually put in drug seizure from June that it was, you know, all cocaine, which is crack cocaine, we call it. They boil it down type thing. So I think that was a great idea by the community member. I asked a few people, I thought the best place to put it, but I'm open, is in the mayor's report, because that's a public document, so you folks can see it. I know Eric from the Drum reads it, Capital Radio posts it, those types of things, right? So I think that was a great thing that a community member came up, and I'm always open to that. This is more from a harm reduction point of view to see sort of what people were using in the community. Doesn't mean that there's not other things. That's definitely a big disclaimer. So, just something that we're trying to, be as open and transparent as possible in that. So, I've already taken up more time than I usually do, so I will definitely open up to council and the mayor if there's any questions or concerns.
Any questions? Councilor Merrill.
Are you getting reports from the public about drug dealing in certain buildings or homes? Is that information coming to you?
Yeah, so I will, again, thank the citizens of Inuvik. Like a lot of the work that we do is because they're calling crime in, and it's not just drug crime, any crime. That's the important thing. That's something that we all need to remember is that if people see crime in progress, they should call. Because that could be something else too, or something more nefarious. So, definitely people are stepping forward, and reporting, not just drug use or drug abuse. We've had impaired driving reports. You'll notice our impaired driving numbers sadly are up, but so is our proactive measures. The vast majority of drivers in Inuvik drive sober. As you see with sort of all the ASD, the roadside screening demands that we ask for. So all that's part and parcel. But we are seeing it, I think, a bit more in the last little bit.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? Seeing none, I'd like to thank you for the work you're doing on drugs in particular and on impaired driving. Well, anyway, thank you for that, and thanks for the report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's all the members like Kayla. They're doing all the hard work. So sorry I was late. Thanks, everybody. Stay warm.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll go back to 7.1. I believe Michael has a brief presentation on the vacant properties. Number 5.
Thank you, worship. Just before I give a quick update on the action item list, I do have a request of council for the timing of a special council meeting that we would like to call. As you're all aware, our new zoning bylaw and community plan are going to be up for a public hearing and second reading. And tomorrow morning at 11 a.m. is our cutoff to put a notification in a new Inuvik drum that has to be advertised for 2 weeks. So that would put us into late January to hold a special council meeting to pass the second reading, to hold the public hearing. And then also do a second reading of the zoning and community plan. So I'm curious to know if you would prefer to start meetings like that at 5:30, 6, 6:30, 7. What time is council most comfortable with in terms of?
Any suggestions, Whitney or Councillor Alexis?
I prefer 7, give us time to go home after work and then come back.
Anyone else?
Any other? You just didn't want to go into your dinner hours if we could avoid it.
But I actually prefer earlier, but I don't have children, so I can be flexible.
And I prefer earlier, but I have no young children. No,
Okay, so watch for that invite in approximately a little over 2 weeks from now. So. Was that
2 weeks from now would be a council meeting.
but we have to advertise it for starting this coming Thursday is when the Inuvik drum goes past. Okay, back to the action items list. A really big win for us is the long-awaited report back from ACOM Engineering, which is item number 5 on the action items list. The engineers were up in Inuvik back in September, if you recall, and they did some analysis on 2 buildings in our community, which are, I'm sure our Sergeant Aubin would agree, are probably not the greatest from a public safety perspective. And we have now received confirmation from ACOM's engineering team that they support the town of Inuvik in the condemnation of those two units on the corner of And you're gonna have to help me with my
Cognolet,
Camilla and
Raven.
Raven. Thank you. I'm still getting to know my streets in town. So we wanted to share with you some of the content, what the pictures looked like inside these units, because they, with the help of the fire department, they were actually able to go in and do some viewing and analysis of the structure. And you can see, Jenna, here, if you just want to scroll through some of the very dangerous foundations that are failing, the structural walls, photos of the inside fire, and we're just happy to report that from the administration's perspective, I think this is going to be a big win for the community. We now have confirmation from an engineering firm that these buildings are condemned, and the next steps will be for the administration to work with Lawson Lundell in terms of contacting the current owner to let them know that these units are condemned, and we'll figure out a legal way with the help of Lawson Lundell to work through the next steps, and we'll keep you posted as we go. We're thinking that it's probably going to be something like you have 30 days to deal with these properties, or 60 days, 90 days, whatever the legal team recommends to the administration. The letter will go out probably through some sort of a registered mail or notification system, and then we will move to next steps from there. The buildings being condemned, that means they can't be worked on the inside if they're too unsafe to send workers on the inside. So anything that would require dealing with contaminated materials, like the outside exterior, the tin walls apparently are painted with lead paint. So some materials may need to be reclaimed and dealt with from the perspective of contaminated materials. But as far as anything on the inside goes, we can't send workers in. So that's a long-awaited report. I know that council's been waiting for a number of months now to hear back. And I wanted to highlight that one on the list, and I'm available for any other questions on the action item.
Is it possible for us to get a copy of that report?
Councilor Miro, it is. The engineers just have to correct 2 commas and 1 sentence, and then they'll finalize it and they'll put the seal on it for us, and
Excellent.
then we'll distribute it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions, comments? It's a shame those rural housing units at one time were most the best in the town of Inuvik.
So can I ask,
Councilor
does
Miro.
that take care of the last of those units over there, or is there that takes care of the rest of it? Okay, and there's the one still standing that's occupied, and that one's not part of this package, am I correct?
That is correct, Councilor Miro. There are 4 units, I believe, that are still being occupied, which raise a question that we will ask Lawson Lundell as to how the rental income from those units is not flowing to the town of Inuvik to be applied against the property tax arrears. So I will be also asking that question when we ask them about next steps or demolition.
So it's the same owner?
It's still all owned under the same owner.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? Councilor Devlin.
Thank you. SAO, is there going to be a second phase to this with any other properties in town with AECO? Thank you.
Yes, Councillor Devlin, I would like to use these properties as our boilerplate for moving forward and learning from the lawyers how to deal with this. This is a first definitely for me, so I'm not sure how the process is going to unfold, but absolutely 100%. Whatever we learn from this process, we'll apply it to other properties that are in the city division.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any further questions?
I just want to say thank you. We've waited a long time for this to happen. And we all know the risk those buildings present, not just to citizens, but children and firefighters going in. So it's been many years, so thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilor Miro. Anything further? Moving on. 8.1, changes to fees and charges policy. What it is basically is removing a fee for bereavement bookings at the MSC. We charge $50. And it was actually my suggestion that we waive that fee for funerals or funeral related services. Any questions? Counselor Merrill?
My only question would be, and I totally support the idea, are we limiting this to a time frame, like an afternoon, 4 hours, 8 hours?
We could, yes. I don't see anything in here, but maybe, do you have a suggestion?
I think as long as it doesn't go more than a day. So I mean, we see a lot of our services start in the afternoon and maybe the family wants to have the feast there as well, so then it's concluded. I mean, that could be 4 to 6 hours. I wouldn't want to be too prescriptive around it, but I also wouldn't want it to be that people just think that
Certainly.
they have the run of the mill.
You got a comment, that's the old rubbish?
Just thank you, your worship. Councillor Miro, the original charge was $50 for 1 day. So I'm thinking maybe just to put more rigor in the actual schedule there, we could put no charge, maximum 1 day, or maximum 4 hours, or maximum 8 hours, whatever council desires.
Maximum 1 day would make sense. Thank you.
Yeah, I think that would solve the problem.
Yeah.
Anything further? Counselor Devlin?
Well, this isn't, it's related to the fee schedule. May I ask a question about that, or just for the agreement? I'll talk with the council. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything further? Okay. 9.1, third reading, sale of land at Shell Lake to Mary Lemieux. Any questions? 9.2 is the third reading of the annual borrowing bylaw. Any comments? 9.3, annual borrowing bylaw, the corporate credit card, third reading. Any questions? 9.4, first and second reading of the bylaw to appoint a director of corporate services. That is Stephen, how do you say his last name? I'm sorry.
Odiase.
Odiase is the director of corporate services. Any comments? Seeing none. Item 10 is department head reports, none tonight. Item 11.1, strategic priorities chart. Any comments? Item 12, council concerns. Anything tonight? Counselor Devlin?
I have two separate issues. One just came up, just under, as far as the pool fees go, I understand that we've been very successful in having monthly sponsorships. But I'm also very concerned that we're actually losing money because we've got all these monthly sponsorships. So I'm wondering if we could just take finance or community services could just take a look and see that we're not, I think we're at 6 months now. And I think it's an amazing program, but maybe we need to look at the actual amount charged for sponsorship of the pool for a month. Thank you. So that's all that Tuesday.
Then you can have a look at that.
Thank you, Councillor Devlin. Yes, your worship. That's been brought to my attention by Director Krug, and Director Krug just would like to make a couple of comments about that. You want to come up, Director Krug?
Good evening, everybody. Happy New Year. To touch on Councillor Devlin's point, we did do a pretty heavy diagnostic into our pool usage over the course of the sponsorships, and we did realize that yes, there was some deficient revenue that we were losing based on the sponsorships. Although widely popular with users, we were able to find out that our annual or our monthly revenue totals were roughly $5,500, where our pool sponsorship was being sold for $3,500. Since finding out that information, a new client has approached me for the month of February, and I presented them with a new fee at $5,000 plus GST, and they were more than happy to fulfill that obligation. So without overselling and making it too exclusive for community groups or other organizations to participate in, we found that $5,000 was a happy medium between our top number of $7,500 and our low number of $3,500. So I hope you find that satisfactory.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any further questions? Councillor Devon.
So my second one is, now it's January. Welcome to 2024. It's our election year. We did discuss 3 or 4 months ago, the possibility of looking at some revisions to our election, I don't know if it's election bylaw, I guess. One, the possibility of going to 4-year terms, and 2, at least taking a look at full-time versus the part-time mayor position as well. I don't know what the next step necessarily is, but I'm hoping that we can, maybe it is bylaw review committee, perhaps it is a separate subcommittee. And what the composition might be on something like that, I don't know, may involve members of the public as well. But I just wanted to sort of say, hey, it's January. And perhaps this is something that, if we decide that we do want to at least take a look at some possible changes, this would be the opportune time. Thank you.
Yeah, I was on council and we went from 2 to 3-year terms. Quite honestly, I can't remember what we did. But it's a fairly simple process. I'm pretty sure there has to be a plebiscite of some kind. In any event, our SAO will look into that. Thank you. Councillor Merrill.
I wonder if we can also look into the number of candidates who ran it with when it was 2 years versus 3 years, because my concern if it's 4 years, we're not gonna get people to make that commitment. The last few councils, we've had trouble talking people into doing a 3-year term. I think we need to make sure we don't make it so much that people just aren't willing to take on that commitment. And I could be wrong in what I think I'm seeing there, so if we had, just a list of who ran before and quickly count those. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything further? Okay. We have no in camera tonight. So I motion to adjourn. Councillor Merrill. All in favor?